Joining me on the call is our airFiber evangelist, one of our airFiber engineers. His name is Salvador. He'll be the one taking us through the webinar today. I want to thank you again for joining the call. We're going to give all the other attendees that we're waiting on just a couple minutes here before we begin. So we'll start here around 5:03, 5:05. Sorry, that's my local time. We'll start here in about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll get right into the presentation. So if at any time you have any questions, and I'll repeat this later, but if at any time you have any questions, please feel free to place them in the question box available, and we will make sure that at the end in our Q&A session we will go through everything. So again, we'll start here in just a few minutes. Just hang tight, and I will announce when we're about ready to start. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and we'll get ready to start here. Again, thank you for joining. We look forward to having a good webinar today about our airFiber platform. Again, just to recap for those that may not have been on the line, for any questions that you have during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the questions section, and we'll make sure that we address them at the end in our Q&A session. Our presenter again today will be Salvador. He is one of our airFiber engineers, very, very knowledgeable, very, very integral to our airFiber platform. We thank him again for making time to have this webinar for us. And at this time, I will hand everything over to Salvador.
Good morning, Kyle. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, yes, we should all be good to go.
Excellent. Well, good morning to everybody, or actually good evening to everybody there. As Kyle mentioned, I'm airFiber. I'm the airFiber evangelist. My name is Salvador Bergenbreiter. I would like to welcome you, everybody, to this webinar. We will cover mainly a few topics. What is airFiber? Why airFiber is so unique? How airFiber compares to our Wi-Fi based solutions. We will also review the portfolio, and we will show a few cases, success cases of airFiber, and then we will have a question and answer section at the end of the webinar. So feel free to start typing your questions, and Kyle will help me reading those questions at the end of the webinar. So first, let's see, what is airFiber? airFiber is a ubiquity network, a high-performance point-to-point solution, which has been designed to offer the benefits of fiber, like high performance and low latency, with the flexibility of radio links. So it can be deployed in just hours instead of weeks or months, like usually it takes with fiber. It offers very high performance. As you can see here, is up to 2 gigabits per second, and the latency is below 1 millisecond into the FTD models. And it also offers you a lot of flexibility in terms of frequency you want to use, because we have a license and unlicensed systems, so you can decide what's just best for your application. So as I mentioned before, airFiber very high performance is up to 2 gigabits per second of aggregated throughput. So basically offers you the flexibility to offer triple play services, like for example video, voice, and internet with very, very good speeds. So it can be used for serve corporate customers, or serve as backhaul solution to offer a GPON, or to offer point-to-multipoint systems to reach each home. And basically, as I mentioned before, it offers the best of both worlds, the performance and latency of fiber with the flexibility of wireless links. So why airFiber is the best product for any point-to-point link, and not only for backhaul systems? Because it's a real carrier class solution and offers, as mentioned before, very high performance. And one important thing that I will mention later is that it offers an incredible an incredible performance in terms of packets per second. So you don't only need to be careful with the capacity you can get, but also with the packets per second that the rate you can handle. And airFiber, it's incredible in that area. And also because it has a very disruptive price. The pricing is incredible. It's definitely the least expensive system in the carrier class world. So it's definitely a good solution. So to understand why airFiber is so unique, I first will show you the antagonist. I will show you first the Wi-Fi, and why Wi-Fi is not ideal for point-to-point links. So Wi-Fi has been designed basically for indoor point-to-point multi-point links. So has not been designed for outdoor application, and has also not been designed for point-to-point links. So even if you patch the Wi-Fi system with, for example, things like TDMA or protocols, or with some kind of hardware acceleration, you will still have a lot of limitations. And the most critical points about those limitations are very low spectral efficiency. They're also more vulnerable to interference, and it also offers you lower security because it can be affected by the authentication attacks. So if you ask me how I see the use of Wi-Fi based systems into the wireless world using for point-to-point, especially for backhauls, I see the use of Wi-Fi based solutions like something like this. Okay, it works, right? But would you trust your business operation in something like this? Probably not. Probably you're looking for something reliable, something that has been designed from day zero for one purpose only, which is high performance and reliability. And this is airFiber. airFiber basically offers you super high performance, but also offers you a very reliable solution. Because this system has not been designed as Wi-Fi, it doesn't suffer of any of those limitations because it has been designed from day zero as a high-performance outdoor point-to-point solution. So it offers you a very high spectral efficiency, actually the highest spectral efficiency in the market, predictable and reliable performance all the time, not only during speed tests, not only during the installation time, but all the time. A normal problem with Wi-Fi based solutions is that during the installation hours, which is typically in business hour, you don't have a lot of interference in the spectrum because people is usually outside of the home, so they're not doing streaming, etc. So when they reach their homes at 6, 7 p.m., then you will have a lot of interference. But unfortunately, since the installers don't install the links during those hours, they don't really know how bad is the interference. So with the airFiber, on the other hand, since this system is transmitting all the time, you can know exactly which frequency you should be using, and you can reserve that frequency for your wireless link, so others cannot affect that frequency. It also has been designed for scalability, so you can install dozens of links on the same tower thanks to the award-winning GPS synchronization. It also offers you very high security, and since this is not vulnerable to any of the typical Wi-Fi attacks, it's pretty secure. It's ideal for any kind of commercial application, even for military application. It's ideal. So let's see how the airFiber works. airFiber, well, first let's see the latency. It offers very low latency, as I mentioned before. In the airFiber full duplex products is below 1 millisecond. In the airFiber half duplex products is around 2 to 3 milliseconds, which is compared to Wi-Fi, as you can see here, it's pretty incredible because in Wi-Fi you will have sometimes low latency, but you will have most of the time a lot of spikes, and that creates a lot of jitter, which is complicated for gamers or for voice application or for any other actually time-sensitive application like in businesses. So let's see how the airFiber works. We have two modes, or two operation modes. One is the full duplex, which is the one in the left. And as you can see here, it transmits and receives all the time because there are two antennas, and each antenna is doing one operation, transmit or receiving, only doing that. On the other hand, we have the traditional Wi-Fi solution, which is the one on the right. This is a TDD solution, the one on the right. And as you can see here, when one radio is transmitting, the other cannot talk at the same time, and that basically creates a lot of waste in terms of airtime. So you are not going to be able to move as many packets per second or as many megabits per megahertz of spectrum because you're wasting a lot of airtime. On the other hand, the one in the middle is the airFiber HDD mode. This is a proprietary mode, which is which has the benefits of the spectral efficiency of full duplex with the flexibility of the TDD. So as you can see here, since the radios know exactly what is the link distance with a very accurate number, they know exactly when to switch from transmit to receiving mode. So both radios will transmit at the same time, and the packets will literally cross into the air, and then the radios will immediately know when to switch to receiving mode. So that basically allows the radio to reduce the waste airtime to almost zero, increasing the capacity and reaching the high numbers I will show you later. So as I mentioned before, the traditional Wi-Fi is the one in the middle as the TDD, so it's only half duplex, and the latency, as you can see, it's pretty unreliable. It suffers a very low spectral efficiency, and that transforms into very low link capacity. On the other hand, we have the airFiber full duplex, which is the one in the right and the left. This is full duplex mode. The latency is below 1 millisecond and has a super high spectral efficiency, and the link capacity is also pretty high. And in the right, you have the HDD mode, which is the mode that you can only use in the X family. This is half duplex mode, and the latency is around 2 to 3 milliseconds. And as you can see, the spectral efficiency is as high as in the full duplex, but since this is a half duplex mode, and the radios will have to share the same radio for transmitting and receiving, the capacity is going to be around half the capacity of full duplex. But anyway, we'll be at least twice the capacity of Wi-Fi. So it's pretty interesting anyway. So how is possible to get those numbers? How is possible to get that incredible performance? And the answer is in the architecture of the system. So basically, in Wi-Fi based solutions, the radios can only handle a few dozens of thousands of packets per second. And why? Because when a packet is coming from the Ethernet interface to the wireless interface, it has to pass through the CPU, and vice versa. When the traffic is coming from the wireless interface and it's passing to the wired interface, it also has to pass through the CPU. So that basically creates a bottleneck because the CPU, even in the highest end product like the airMax AC, can only handle around 50,000 packets per second, which sounds good on the paper, but you will see the problem. When you run speed tests, for example, there is no problem because you will be using large packets, like 1,500 bytes packets. So those large packets, you don't need many of those packets to get 100 megabits per second or 200 megabits per second. So during speed tests, the performance is going to be pretty good. But unfortunately, in real life applications, not all packets are large packets. Actually, most of the packets are small packets. Those are 64 bytes or 128 bytes. So with those small packets, which are very typical because they are used for ICMP, DNS, voice, and a lot of our applications, those small packets can easily saturate the CPU of a system, because even when only 25 megabits of small packets, you can saturate an airMax AC CPU. And this is because all the packets has to pass through the CPU. On the other hand, airFiber is able to handle 1,000,000 packets per second, and also supports jumbo frames, which is something that's not supported by Wi-Fi based solution. And how is it possible to do that? How is it possible to reach that huge number, 1,000,000 packets per second? And the answer is not in the CPU. The answer is in the architecture, because the airFiber uses an FPGA instead of a CPU to pass the traffic. So when the traffic is coming from the Ethernet interface and want to pass through the wireless interface, it does not have to pass through the CPU, but it passes via the FPGA. So it bypasses the CPU and passes through a FPGA, which is a 100% hardware-based solution. So since that, it's able to have this very low latency and incredible performance with any kind of packet, with any size of packet. It can be a large or a small packet. It will perform incredibly well in any case. So bye-bye to bottlenecks. We also have a new version of AirView. The AirView in airFiber is like an ultra high definition video, because you will have a lot of details, you will have a lot of information. On the other hand, the AirView in airMax or any other Wi-Fi based system, it's only a low definition video. You can see the shapes, but you cannot see the details. And when you want to use a system in a very important task, like being a backhaul, you really need a system that can know exactly where is the interference. With the AirView and airFiber, you can have that information. As I mentioned before, airFiber also has an incredible performance and incredible spectral efficiency. So let's see the numbers first. Let's see how efficient is, for example, airMax M with the 802.11n technology. With 802.11n, in theory, the maximum spectral efficiency is 5 megabits per megahertz. Unfortunately, in real life, the maximum spectral efficiency is around 3 megabits per each megahertz. On the other hand, in 802.11ac, the latest AC standard, the maximum number in theory is 9 megabits per megahertz. Unfortunately, in real world application, that number is closer to 5 to 6 megabits per megahertz of spectrum. On the other hand, the real number on airFiber, because we don't want to just show you the data rates, we want to show you the numbers, real capacity you can get, because you don't plan your network based on data rates. You plan your network based on real capacity that the link can handle. We offer you only real numbers. So with the airFiber, you can have 13.25 megabits per megahertz. This is twice the capacity as airMax AC on the same spectrum. As I mentioned before, we only show you real numbers. We don't show you air speed, the famous data rates, because we want to show you information that they can use. and not only that looks like a good number into the system. So with the link capacity in airFiber, as you can see here, you will see the real capacity all the time, and not only an approximate capacity, but you will see a real throughput number. So for example, here you have a normal link. This is we're running a speed test, and this speed test is using both directions. So doing a both direction speed test, you get 470 megabits per second. And you will see that the number that you get in the capacity, it's almost the same. It's a 99 point something% accuracy. So you can plan your network exactly. You will really know when your network is saturated. On the other hand, in Wi-Fi, you cannot do that. So this is a problem. And how it's possible to get that accurate number is because airFiber is transmitting all the time. As I mentioned before, that's pretty useful to reserve the bandwidth for the link, but it's also pretty useful to know exactly what is the maximum capacity at every second. So airFiber basically, when there is no user data, it basically generates random information and passes that random information through the link to exactly know what is the real capacity. So this is something very interesting, and that will give you the information about what is the real capacity all the time. So that's actually the answer to one question that many users ask me. They ask me, Salvador, what is the famous speed test tool into the airFiber? I don't find it. And the answer is, it is in the main tab, and it's called capacity, because this is a speed test running all the time, and this is real number in both directions. And this is something I want to highlight. For example, in AirMax AC, you will see, for example, that the capacity is 200 down and 200 megabits per second up. So you will think, okay, that means that I can handle 200 megabits per second up and down at the same time. And the answer is no. In any Wi-Fi based solution, those numbers are only on or. So it's not an and, but it's an or. So basically, if you see 200, you will be limited to 100 megabits per second down and 100 megabits per second down, or 150 megabits per second down, but only 50 megabits per second down. On the other hand, in airFiber, and by the way, those are the number in the best case scenario. On real world number, you will see around 50% of that advertised capacity. So you will get around 75 and 25 megabits per second, respectively. So with the airFiber, on the other hand, you will see real numbers. And as I show you here, we have an example of a link which is able to handle 238 megabits per second down and 238 megabits per second up. And as you can see here, that capacity can be reached in both directions at the same time. So this is an AND capacity. It's not an OR like in Wi-Fi. So it will give you real numbers, and you will know exactly at every second how is your network performing. We also have some very advanced cable diagnostic tools, like the one you can see here. So you can know also what is the status of the cable part, of the Ethernet part, so you can find the problems before they appear to your customers. You also have some advanced options like multicast filtering, like flow control. One I really would like to highlight is the customized carrier drop. And this customer carrier drop is pretty useful to not only guarantee a constant connection, but also to guarantee a quality of experience to your customers. And why this is important? Because let's see one example. You have a primary link which is in a very high frequency, for example, 24 gigahertz. That frequency is able to offer you a lot of capacity. So let's say up to 1 gigabit per second full duplex. So 2 gigabits per second aggregated. With that 1 gigabit per second full duplex, you're gonna be able to offer a very, very incredible performance. But if you have a long distance link, or if you live in an area that rains a lot, because 24 gigahertz frequency, it's very susceptible to weather, especially to rain. So if you live in a very rainy place, I think it's not the case in the Middle East, so you shouldn't be affected by that so much. But in other parts of the world, the rain can be a real problem. So in that case, it's always a good idea to have a backup link in a lower frequency, like 5 gigahertz. So in that case, for example, you can say to airFiber, okay, if you reach the threshold, which can be, for example, 200 megabits per second, take the primary link down and jump to the secondary link to make sure you don't only keep a stable connection, but you keep a minimum capacity for your link. So in that way, you can guarantee the quality of experience for your customers. And that's something unique in airFiber. Uh, the airFiber has also been designed from day zero to offer you an incredible co-location system because it offers an award-winning GPS synchronization. And this synchronization is also compatible with other manufacturers. And you can basically co-locate dozens and dozens of radios on the same tower. Also, in the 24 gigahertz frequency, which is a very high frequency, you can co-locate up to 10 radios using the same frequency. So that offers you an incredible spectral efficiency. And if you are going to be using lower frequencies like 5 gigahertz, you can still do certain frequency reutilization. So you can reuse the frequency. For example, in this case, we have 6 wireless links, and we're going to be using only 2 frequencies. So you can basically triple the spectral efficiency, reaching almost 40 megabits per megahertz of spectrum. And since this is not Wi-Fi based, it doesn't suffer of all the limitations of Wi-Fi based in terms of security. This is a proprietary system, so it's not affected by WPA passphrase attacks. This cannot be affected by all those normal attacks. The traffic is 100% encrypted with AES 128. It also offers you 20 times higher tolerance to DDoS attacks because the radio is able to handle up to 1 million packets per second. And also I would like to show you how important it is to have a clean radio. And why is it important to have a clean radio? Because when you are transmitting, you don't want to create a lot of interference out of the frequency you're going to be using. If you want to use one frequency, you want to focus all the energy in that frequency and not in other parts of the spectrum. So with the airFiber 5X, as we can see here in the blue line, you will see that the airFiber transmit at all the power only in the frequency it should be using. So in this case, it's 5240, and it's creating almost no interference in other parts of the spectrum, so it doesn't raise the noise floor. On the other hand, we have a Wi-Fi based solution that claims to offer dual or actually double the performance because it uses dual channels. So it uses 2 channels to transmit and receive. So in that case, that Wi-Fi based solution transmits in 5240 and 5735, but you will see that even outside that frequency, it increases the noise floor incredibly. So it jumps from minus 95 to minus 70 dB of interference. So the noise floor is pretty high with those radios. So that basically means that you won't be able to co-locate as many radios as you want with that frequency or within that area because of the noise that's creating those radios. So it's pretty important to always use a radio that's pretty clean, that doesn't create a lot of interference. So make sure to use a radio that doesn't produce a lot of interference. airFiber is an incredible example of this. And airFiber also offers you incredible ESD protection. So airFiber is DC. The RF part is DC grounded compared to other Wi-Fi based solutions. Wi-Fi based solutions are not DC grounded, so they require a surge protector and our RF surge protector actually. And that RF surge protector creates a lot of problems, like adding another point of failure, or also reducing the signal strength. So with airFiber, this is not a case because it doesn't require an RF surge protector because the RF part is already DC grounded, and it offers you improved ESD protection, and it also offers you a grounding connector so you can ground the radio and you can protect your investment. So I mentioned a lot of points, and then now you understand why airFiber is not only for backhauls, but why airFiber is ideal for any point-to-point link to serve corporate customers, to serve MDUs or multifamily residential units, or to serve multiple offices from I don't know, in a building with multiple offices, or also to connect different towers. It's ideal for any kind of application. This is a document I posted into the Spanish community. We will translate this into English pretty soon, and that's basically talking about why not all megabits are the same. So this is about the packets per second and doing examples with cars. I love cars, so doing example of cars, high performance cars versus modified low performance cars. You can understand easily why it's so different. A Wi-Fi based versus an airFiber based solution. Let's also review the portfolio of the airFiber family. We have the first airFiber product, which is the airFiber 24. The airFiber 24 has been released in 2012. This is a very unique radio that offers incredible performance, as you can see here, up to 1.5 gigabits per second of aggregated throughput. It means 750 megabits per second full duplex. And as you can see here, we make different numbers, or actually I'm showing different numbers for different IRP levels, because the maximum distance will depend on the IRP level. So for example, in the US, the maximum IRP level is 33 dBms, so you can get the maximum capacity up to 7 kilometers. But for example, in places like Taiwan, you can use up to 40 dBms, so the maximum capacity, which is 1.5 gigabits per second, can be reached up to 15 kilometers. So you have to find your country and exactly what is the right number for your country. And that all basically offers you high performance. And the latency, as I mentioned before, it's pretty low, it's below 1 millisecond. And this uses a 24 gigahertz band, which is a pretty high band. So it's important to make sure that if you have a very long distance link in a very rainy place, you have to consider to have a backup link. It's definitely a recommendation that you should take into account. And probably you're asking why the shape of the airFiber 24 it's so strange. And this is a very intelligent trick the airFiber engineers did. And basically, since the IRP limitations are based on the transmission antenna, the maximum transmission antenna we can use, or actually we should use, is 33 dBi. But in order to get a higher link budget, in order to be able to reach longer distances, we did a super cool trick. We increased the RX antenna only. So the RX gain the RX gain into that antenna is 38 dBi. So it's 5 dB higher than the TX antenna. So that basically allows you to have links that are actually twice or more than twice the distance that a link that can be used that can be reached with only 33 dBi antennas. And we take that trick one step further into the airFiber 24 HD, and we increase the RX gain from 38 to 40 dBis. So it basically doubles or almost double the link distance. And we also enabled 256 QAM modulation, so you can reach up to 2 gigabits per second of aggregated throughput. So also the numbers are based here. The number, the maximum distance and the maximum capacity at that distance depends on the IRP level. So for the US, for example, the maximum distance you can get is 4.5 kilometers at 2 gigabits per second. But for example, in Taiwan, you can get 2 gigabits per second up to 7 kilometers. Or actually, you can get up to 1.5 gigabits per second up to 17 kilometers. So as you can see here, it's pretty interesting. We also have the airFiber 5 and airFiber 5U. This is basically the same radio, but the only difference in those radios is the frequency that each one can handle. So in the airFiber 5, it can handle from 5.4 gigahertz up to 5.8 gigahertz, and in the airFiber 5U, it can handle from 5.7 gigahertz up to 6.2 gigahertz. So basically, allows you in the airFiber 5U, if you have a license, you can use it in 5.9, 6.0, 6.1, or 6.2 gigahertz if you have a license to use those frequencies. And those radios offer a very high performance, as you can see, up to 1.2 gigabits per second. Low latency, it's below 1 millisecond as well. And as you can see, the maximum capacity will depend on the power you can use. So for example, for the US, we can use up to 47 dBms. So you can get up to 1 gigabit per second of aggregated throughput. It means 500 and 500, or different number if you're using asymmetric channel width, is up to 12 kilometers. And you can go as far as 100 kilometer if you have a good line of sight link. Oh, 1 second. There's a pretty interesting mode in the airFiber 5 and airFiber 5U, which is the asymmetric channel bandwidth. And this is pretty useful when you have an asymmetrical distribution of your traffic. So for example, for the residential customers, if you're an ISP and you're serving residential customers, you know that probably 90% of your traffic is download and only 10% is upload. So in that case, in normal full duplex systems, you have to use the same bandwidth for TX and RX. But since this is a pretty changing world and there's a lot of interference, you don't want to use a lot of frequency if you don't need to use that frequency. So with airFiber 5 and 5U, you can use asymmetrical channel widths. So for example, you can use 50 megahertz for download and only 10 megahertz for outload. So that gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can basically use the spectrum in a very, very sophisticated and a very spectral efficient way. So you don't waste the spectrum. We have some members of the X family. The X family is only half duplex, and the first members of those family are the airFiber 2X and 3X. Those are very high performance radios. The frequency operation in the 2X is currently for 2.4 to only 2.4 gigahertz band. Via firmware upgrade, we will enable 2.3 and 2.5. And this is only possible if you have a license. So if you have a license, you will be able to use 2.3 or 2.5. And in the airFiber 3X, we support from 3.3 to 3.9 gigahertz. And the maximum TX power in the airFiber 2X is 30 dBm, and the 3X is 29 dBm. And the good thing about that power is that this is not like only a handleable power. This is power that you can really use, because this is high performance and that a high power while keeping excellent EVM. And why EVM is important? Because as higher the EVM, as lowest the modulation you can get. So that's typical with a lot of very powerful devices. They claim 30 or 36 dBm power, but they can only reach very low modulations, and that's because of the EVM. So with the airFiber 2X and 3X, we take one step further into this, and we offer an incredibly low EVM, so you can reach higher modulations, but you can still use a lot of power. So it basically translates into long distance links that can perform up to 500 megabits per second of aggregated throughput. We also support 11 channel width options, ranging from a very narrow 3.5 megahertz channel up to a wide 56 megahertz channel. And you can choose your channel with 1 megahertz interval selection, so you can basically use any frequency you want. We also have a new product, which is the airFiber 4X, and this is a new product that has been designed for the public safety system or market, and you can basically offer this to video surveillance, to police, to ambulances, to fire departments. Basically, it's pretty much the same as the airFiber 2X and 3X, but it operates in a different frequency range. It operates from 4.7 to 4.99 gigahertz. So it's an incredible product, offers incredible high performance, and you can also reach up to 500 megabits per second of aggregated throughput. And we also have the airFiber 5X. This is known as the Swiss Army knife of the point-to-point links, because it's super flexible. You can use for a link which is only 10 meters to a link which is 300 kilometers. So it offers you a lot of flexibility. You have many channel width options. You can reach up to 1024 QAM modulation, and it has been selected as the best radio in the market category of performance per dollar per megahertz. in the license band. And it also offers you two operational modes. One is the HDD standard and the other one is the HDD split. I'm going to talk about this in the next slide. And it also offers you a high performance, a high power, as you can see here. You can also reach 500 megabits per second of aggregated throughput. You can transmit up to 26 dBms, and the frequency range operation is from 5.15 up to 5.95. And why that frequency range, and why not supporting, for example, 4.9 to 6.1 that our radios do? And the answer, it's pretty clear. As wider the frequency range you support, as higher the chances of getting more interference. So for example, even if you are operating in 5.5 gigahertz, if you have interference, for example, in 4.9, and you have a radio which supports that frequency, it will also be receiving interference in that frequency. On the other hand, if you have a radio that filters that 4.9 interference, you're not going to be receiving that interference, and you're going to be able to have much higher modulation. That's the reason, because the frequency range is only from 5.1 to 5.9. As I was talking before, the HDD split mode is a pretty interesting case. It basically allows you to use different frequencies for TX and RX. And why this is important? Let's imagine one scenario where, for example, you have in the master side, you run the AirView, and you only have the 5.8 gigahertz frequency, which is clean. Everything else is pretty crowded. You cannot use any other frequencies but 5.8. And in the slave side, in the right, you will have only 5.3 gigahertz clean, and everything else is going to be crowded. So what can you do in a Wi-Fi based solution? You will have to choose one of those. You can use 5.8 or 5.3. So for example, let's say you want to prioritize the download, so you're going to be using 5.8 gigahertz. If you use 5.8 gigahertz, you're going to be sacrificing the upload speed. So basically you say, okay, it's not so important because most of my traffic is upload, so I don't care so much. But you're not considering something very important, that when you have a lower spectral efficiency in the upload, since you have, you're not going to be able to move as many megabits per megahertz, you're going to be using more airtime for the upload. So basically, the airtime which is going to be available for download is going to be much lower. So you're going to have a double effect. You will have, in one hand, you will have lower performance in the upload because it's a lower modulation, but you will also suffer lower performance in the download because you will have less airtime available for the download side. So what is a good solution for this? Is what we did with the airFiber HDD split mode. With the airFiber HDD split mode, you can basically use different frequencies for TX and RX, so you can avoid the local interference. And by avoiding the local interference, you can reach the highest modulation in both directions. Doing that, you can basically double the performance, or you can actually have much higher performance because you're not going to be affected by interference. We also have another member of the airFiber family. This is the airFiber 11FX. This is a new radio that has been introduced recently, and it's the first ubiquity radio full duplex antenna, radio using a single antenna. And this is pretty interesting because if you saw the pictures of the airFiber 24 HD, airFiber 5, and airFiber 5U, those radios have two antennas because they use one antenna for TX and the other for RX. On the other hand, in the airFiber 11FX, you can use a single antenna and you can have full duplex operation even in MIMO mode. So you can basically have very high performance. You can reach up to 1.2 gigabits per second of aggregated throughput, and the operational frequency, the frequency range is from 10.7 to 11.7 gigahertz, and the maximum power is 30 dBm. So you will have a lot of power, and that's basically has been awarded as the best radio in the market category of performance per dollar per hertz, but in the license band. In the license band is airFiber 5X. In the license band is airFiber 11FX. So you have a lot of flexibility. You can use this in SISO or MIMO mode. You can reach 1024 QAM modulation, and the capacity is going to be unlocked out of the box, so you don't have to buy any license to have higher capacity, because we don't do that. So when you buy the product, it's going to be able to offer you the highest performance in SISO, or if you buy the extra duplexer in MIMO mode. We also have some antennas for the airFiber X family. We have the airFiber 2G24, which is the 24 dBi dish for the airFiber 2X, and we have the airFiber 3G26, which is the 26 dBi dish for the airFiber 3X. And we actually recommend you to use third-party shield kits for those antennas if you live in an area, or if the antennas are located in an area with a lot of interference in that frequency. Otherwise, you can use them without a shield. But if there's a lot of interference, or if you want to have a lot of collocated radios in the 2.4 or the 3 gigahertz band, it's always a good idea to use a shield to protect that and increase the isolation. We also have 3 models for the 5 gigahertz band for the airFiber 5X. The first one is the airFiber antenna with 23 dBi dish. That one comes with an integrated radio. Is the one in the top right of the image. We also have 2 other antennas which have been designed for 5 gigahertz, but that will also operate in 4.9. So the first one is the airFiber 30 dBi dish, as the one on the left. That one also supports the ISOBeam accessory. I'm going to talk about the ISOBeam accessory later, but you will see that this is definitely the most popular antenna and the ideal antenna for most links. And we also have another antenna, which is the airFiber 5G34, which is a 34 dBi dish. This is a very high performance antenna for longer distance links. And those last 2 antennas, the 30 and 34 dBi dishes, also support 4.7 and 4.9 gigahertz frequencies. So it's ideal for the airFiber 4X. But since those antennas have not been designed for the 5 gigahertz, they perform a little bit lower in terms of antenna gain into those frequencies. So for the 30 dBi dish in the 4.9 gigahertz spectrum is only for 26 dBi, and the 34 dBi dish operating in 4.9 or 4.8 is only 30 dBi dish. So it's pretty good anyway, but it's important to consider that lower antenna gain into your calculations. So how airFiber antennas are different to traditional vertical and horizontal antennas? Traditional horizontal and vertical antennas operate in the horizontal and vertical polarity. So basically, if you rotate that 40 degrees to the left or to the right, you will have an dual slant antenna, because you're going to be using the 25 degree and 139 degree polarization. And in that way, the main advantage is you're going to be receiving less interference from vertical and horizontal sources. So for example, if you have a vertical horizontal antenna and you're receiving a certain number of interference, a certain amount of interference, if you change the polarity by only rotating it 45 degrees, you're going to be receiving 3 dB less of interference. And 3 dB is a lot, because it will help you to double the distance or to reach the next modulation. And if you already have rocket dishes, you don't need to take them away and trash them. You can reuse them using the conversion kit. That conversion kit will basically transform your rocket dishes from vertical to horizontal to dual slant polarity, and you can reuse those rocket dishes. The name of the conversion kit is the AF5G OMT-S45, or you can only ask in a much easier way, ask your reseller for the conversion kit for the rocket dishes, and then we'll immediately know what it is. We also have the airFiber NXN technology. That NXN technology allows us to synchronize multiple radios to use a single antenna. So basically, you can use up to 4 radios in a single antenna, and that saves you space and reduce the wind load of the tower, reducing the operational cost in case you're renting the tower, and reducing basically the requirements for the tower, because since you have a lower wind load, you don't need a super strong tower if you have your own tower. Also increase your capacity as needed. So for example, if you have a customer that in the very beginning needs only 400 megabits per second, but then he needs 800 megabits per second, you can just add another radio and that's it. You don't have to install another antenna. And probably you're asking, okay, Salvador, I understand that, but how you aggregate the throughput? How can you combine the bandwidth of those multiple radios? And that part is not being done into their fiber. That part is being done into the edge point. So basically, we have two options. If you want to aggregate the traffic in layer 2, if you have, for example, a bridge network, you want to aggregate traffic in layer 2, and we have the edge point S16, which is a switch with 16 ports. And if you want to aggregate the traffic in layer 3, we have a edge point R8, which is a router, and you can do load balancing. And that offers you, as I mentioned before, higher performance, higher capacity. You can double or quadruple the capacity, but you can also add redundancy. Since you have multiple radios and you can have a bonding or load balancing, you're going to be much more tolerant to any problem with the radio or the cable or the PoE or anything, or even interference. If you have any problem affecting one radio, it's not going to affect the others. So you can basically offer 100% of uptime. Here are the pictures of the two multiplexers. The first one is the airFiber MPX4. This is a 2-radio multiplexer, and it's able to offer you up to 1 gigabit per second of aggregated throughput. And we also have the AF MPX8. This is a 4-radio multiplexer, and it offers you up to 2 gigabits per second of aggregated throughput. And one important part that you have to consider is this: since those are passive devices, those are not active devices, there are certain losses involved. So for the airFiber MPX4, the 2-radio version, it's 4.1 dB loss, and for the airFiber MPX8, it's a 7 dB loss, 7.2 dB loss. So you have to consider those numbers in your calculations. Depending on the link distance and your country code, you can compensate that entirely or partially by increasing the power transmission, the output power, or by increasing the antenna gain if you have a medium distance link. So for example, for short distance links, you can compensate that almost entirely or entirely in certain cases by simply specifying the cable loss. And if you specify those 4.1 on each side of the link, that will the radio will know that there is a loss involved and will compensate the IRP, and will keep the same IRP, but just will actually increase the transmission power. If you have a medium distance link and you're using full power, in that case, you probably need to change the antenna to a higher gain antenna. So you can use, for example, a 34 dBi antenna instead of a 30 dBi antenna. I will show you some accessories for the airFiber. The first one is a must in my opinion. This is the ISOBeam. This is a shield, a special shield for the airFiber 30 dBi dish. This is definitely recommended because it will focus all the energy into the front and not into the side lobes. So basically allows you to reduce the interference that the radio receives and also reduce the interference that the radio creates to other radios. So it's pretty easy and fast to install, and it's pretty inexpensive. So I definitely recommend you to install this into your fiber links with that antenna. We also have the Precision Alignment Kit 620. This is also compatible only with the airFiber 30 dBi dish. And basically, it's very helpful if you have non-expert installers that don't know how to align the antenna perfectly. They can easily align the antenna using this Precision Alignment Kit. We also have shielded cable. This is a must for all installation, not only for airFiber, but for any outdoor link. And we offer two models. One is the Tough Cable Pro, and the other is the Tough Cable Carrier. Both are works with airFiber, and the selection basically depends on the ESD, or actually in the EMI interference you can have in your area. If you have a lot of interference in terms of FM, for example, I will use the Tough Cable Carrier. If not, the Tough Cable Pro should work fine. We also offer you shielded connectors. We have those two models. It's important to always deploy your network with the right shielded cable and with the right shielded connector. Otherwise, the radio can be affected by ESD. And talking about ESD, we also have a surge protector for the Ethernet port. You can install that surge protector. Here's an example of a good installation.
one can be installed very close to their antenna, and they are very close to the building entrance. And that basically allows you to reduce the ESD damage into the Ethernet parts of the devices. We also have different PoE adapters for airFiber. You don't need to buy them separately because they come into the box. But the thing I would like to highlight here is that it is important to use the right PoE adapter. And why it is important to use the right PoE adapter for airFibers? Because normal AirMax or any other system PoE uses only two pair for power and 4 pair for data. So in order to get the gigabit capacity. But the airFiber uses the 4 pair for both power and data. So it's important to use the right PoE adapter, otherwise the radio cannot work properly. So when you install your system, always make sure you're using the right PoE adapter, which support 4 pair for power. If you're using a TOT switch, for example, that only support two pair for power, so it's not recommended. That being said, you could use it that if the cable length is very, very short, below 15 meters or below 10 meters. Otherwise, if you don't want to use the PoE because you want to power via radio directly, via a PoE switch or PoE router, you can use the Edge Point S16 or the Edge Point R8. Those both models support high power using 4 pair for power. So you can use the Edge Point S16, Edge Point R8, or the supplied PoE adapter to power any airFiber product. We also have a media converter, which is the fiber PoE, and that's pretty helpful because you can basically run monomode or multi-mode fiber next to the airFiber, and that's pretty useful in two cases. That's pretty useful when you have a cable which is above 100 meters. So for example, you have a 200-meter cable. You cannot do that with Ethernet. You need a fiber. And in that case, you can use a fiber cable and then only use a very short cable to connect the fiber PoE to the airFiber. And it's also very helpful in case of installations where you have an FM tower collocated or very close to the antenna, because FM frequency, it uses the same frequency as the gigabit Ethernet. So FM transmissions will create a lot of interference in gigabit Ethernet. So that's the reason, because sometimes you cannot get gigabit connection in your Ethernet port, and you only get 100 megabits per second. This is the reason. So it's always recommended to, if you have an FM tower, always use fiber to reach that tower, and you can use the fiber PoE for that. Let's review a few case studies. This is a case study in Ecuador.
Salvador, yes? Real fast. You sounded a little bit muffled. I don't know if maybe you changed how you're speaking into the microphone, but...
Oh, what about now?
Yes, yeah, much better now.
Much better? Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So now let's review a few success cases. This is one in Ecuador. I visited this place. I was working with the guys here, and this is a very interesting case because Ecuador is a place where there is there are many earthquakes, and in this place there was an earthquake, and that earthquake take down his entire network of this EISP. This is mana.ez. They have a GPON network, and they have active Ethernet connecting multiple locations. And unfortunately, the earthquake take down everything, so they lost connection. So in order to reconnect the cities, and in order to give access to corporate clients, they install airFiber links to all the corporate clients. So we also for backhaul links, we deployed 3 links there. One is an airFiber 5U. It's a 2.5 kilometer link, and they were able to get 1.2 gigabits per second of aggregated capacity. This is not the data rate, this is real capacity. The other one is a 35 kilometer link using the airFiber 5X. They were able to get 400 megabits per second of capacity. Unfortunately, the line of sight was not ideal, so that's the reason, because the capacity is not as high as 500. And the other is a 300-meter link, and they got 500 megabits per second. And the interesting thing of this deployment is that the sentence that the manager told me, and they told me that the airFiber give them the speed and low latency of fiber while keeping the flexibility of the radio links. And that's pretty important because with fiber, I know many of you are probably thinking of fiber, and fiber it's pretty good in many cases, but fiber is pretty susceptible to any weather problem or with any catastrophe. So wireless links are much reliable in those cases. So even if you plan to deploy a fiber to a city or fiber to an OLT, it's always a good idea to also consider a wireless backhaul or actually a wireless backhaul, and airFiber is ideal for that. So in this case, they are for all the fiber links they have to connect towers or to connect sites, they are also deploying airFiber as backhaul solution, as a backup in case of any problem they suffer. So something important, airFiber can be used for two things. One is for replacement to fiber, and the other is for complement for fiber. So it offers you the flexibility to choose whatever you want, and also the flexibility of the radio links is that if you want to deploy a wireless link, you can deploy that very easily in just a few hours. On the other hand, if you want to run fiber, you have to get permissions and everything, and can easily take you weeks or months. So this is pretty important of wireless. It's pretty flexible and it's pretty fast to be deployed. Let's see a few cases from our users in our community. The first one is the one in the left. This is an almost 20-kilometer link using airFiber 24 HD, and the user is getting 1.2 gigabits per second of aggregated throughput. The other one on the right is an airFiber 24. This is a 9-kilometer link. The user is getting 1.5 gigabits per second of aggregated throughput. And something I would like to highlight here is that airFiber offers you a lot of capacity, as you can see here, a lot of performance, but also airFiber is very reliable. And I'm going to show you an example. This is a screenshot that has been taken in January of this year, so it's like 11 months earlier, and that link was running for 1,202 days of uptime. Right now, it should be around 4 years of uptime. So as you can see here, airFiber not only offers you high performance, but also offers you a very reliable system that you can offer 100% or almost 100% time of uptime to your customers. Here are our success cases. The one on the left is airFiber 5. This is a 80-kilometer link, and the user is getting 90 megabits per second. The other in the right is an 103-kilometer link, and the user is getting 110 megabits per second of aggregated throughput. We have some other success cases. The one on the left is 70 kilometers, and he's getting 385 megabits per second of capacity. And the one on the right is an airFiber 5X. He's getting around 410 megabits per second. But the thing I would like to highlight here is not only the speed, but I want to tell you about the story of this link. This is an existing wireless link. They were using Rocket M5 without antenna shield, so they changed that Rocket M5 that was able to offer you 12 megabits per second of aggregated throughput to an airFiber 5X. They also added a shielding to the antenna. That's important to highlight as well. And they jumped from 12 megabits to almost 410 megabits per second of aggregated throughput for a 32-kilometer link. And the example on the right, I want to show you this because this is pretty interesting. This example shows you that you don't need a lot of power to get very high performance. So this is a 10-kilometer link, and this 10-kilometer link using only -1 dBm. Yes, this is -1 dBm, so it's pretty low power. He's able to get 220 megabits per second of capacity. So as you can see here, it performs pretty well with a lot of power or with a little power as -1 dBm. We have another success case. This is a short distance link. It's a 2.2-kilometer link in Santiago de Chile. This is Chile's capital. It's a place with a lot of wireless link. So it's the spectrum is pretty crowded. We ran some air views. Unfortunately, I don't have the screenshots here, but the noise floor was around -60 dBms. So it's pretty high noise level, so interference was a real issue. They were using a Rocket 5 AC with air prism, and they were not able to get good capacity, so they jumped from the Rocket 5 AC with air prism to the airFiber 5X, a single radio first, and they were able to get 230 megabits per second using 30 megahertz of spectrum. They were not able to use more than 30 megahertz of spectrum because the spectrum was very crowded. So finally, they needed more bandwidth because the things were working well in that place, and they had to increase the bandwidth. And they added an airFiber multiplexer, the NXN, and they added another airFiber 5X, and they were able to use two 30 megahertz channels, and they were getting 460 megabits per second in a very, very noisy place. This is another example. This is a 48 kilometer link, around 230 megabits per second, using only 30 megahertz of spectrum. So that's important to highlight, only 30 megahertz of spectrum. This is another case. This is a solar site, as you can see here. It's pretty good performance, and it can be powered via solar. We also have a link over the ocean. As you probably know, links over the ocean are pretty complicated, and as you can see here, it performs pretty well. This is another link, and this is an interesting case. This is a total 150 kilometer link, and this is a three-part link. The first link is 53 kilometer, the second link is 90 kilometer, and the third link is 7 kilometer. So after those three links, the aggregated latency is below 5 milliseconds. And probably you're asking, okay, Salvador, do you have a single 150 kilometer link? What about the latency in that case? Yes, we have an example. This is one user. He has a 57 kilometer link, and as you can see, the performance is pretty good. It's around 120 megabits per second, and the latency is below 4 milliseconds. So as you can see here, the latency is super low for that distance. And we have a very interesting case. This is a 225 kilometer link from close to Las Vegas to close to LA. So it's crossing two states. It's crossing one state, sorry. And basically here, this is a story that when users share into our community, he was getting around 150 megabits per second. He posted his story, and we review that story. We think, okay, maybe we can help this customer and he can get more performance. So thanks to his post, we were able to help him, and he's now getting 230 megabits per second in that 225 kilometer link. That's pretty good numbers. But if you want to go one step further, we have a world record, and this world record, as you can see here, this is a 304 kilometer link. Yes, 304 kilometer link. And in this link, we were using 35 DVI dishes. Those were third-party dishes. This is radio waves or Andrews, if I'm not wrong. In this link, we were using 50 megahertz channels, and this link is crossing entire country. And as you can see here, this 304 kilometer link is able to pass 350 megabits per second. So it's a world record. It's an incredible number. We have a noise floor chart. This is a test that a user called EJim posted in our community. He compared an airFiber 5X against an airFiber 5 point-to-point, an airFiber 5 Lite, and 3 radios from our competitors. So as you can see here, when you have no interference, most radios perform pretty decent. The airFiber is, of course, the fastest, but most of the radios perform pretty decent. But when you increase the power, the interference power, up to, let's say, 25 dBcs, you will see that the airFiber is still able to handle around 80 megabits per second. And the Rocket AC with air prism technology can handle around 40 megabits per second, and the Rocket 5 AC can only handle around 10 megabits per second.
But if you move that a little bit further to the right to 30 DVCs, you will see that all the radios stop modulating. They cannot even move 1 megabit per second. And in that scenario, the airFiber 5X is still able to move around 35 megabits per second. So you will see that airFiber is much more tolerant to interference compared to our Wi-Fi based systems. We have an interesting case. This is a link in Argentina. This is a 165 kilometer link using the airFiber 34 dBi dish. And if you see here, you will see that there is a lot of snow in front of the radome. And that's pretty complicated, as you know. Ice attenuates the signal very significantly. So that radio was only getting minus 77 dBms of signal. They originally had a rocket system. It was not able to support that conditions very well. But with airFiber 5X, he's able to still get 45 megabits per second in those very, very, very critical situations. As you can see here, airFiber is deployed all over the world, from cold places like Alaska to very warm places like deserts. In Chile, there's the driest desert, Atacama. There's one airFiber located in that desert. As you can see here, they are deployed all over the world, and they prove their ability to offer very high performance in wireless links. So basically, why choose airFiber? airFiber is the only system in that price range below $500 that offers 1024 QAM modulation. Actually, it's probably the only one below $1,000 that offers that. We also advertise a high performance, but using realistic channel widths. We do not show, yes, you can get 500 megabits per second by using 160 megahertz of spectrum, because that's not possible in real life. Let's be honest. In 5 gigahertz band, you're lucky if you can get 50 megahertz of spectrum. So we're showing you real numbers in real conditions that you can replicate and not just lab simulations. We also offer you the lowest end-to-end latency compared to our radios. We also offer very low power consumption radios. As you can see, all the X family uses only 12 watts, so it's pretty low power consumption. We'll have proprietary links, so we don't use any Wi-Fi based system. We're not limited to any of the limitations of Wi-Fi. We have advanced MIMO options. And a very important thing I would like to highlight is that our radios produce up to 30 times less noise compared to our radios. And that's part of the Ubiquiti commitment to be very clean, to don't produce a lot of the noise in the spectrum, because we know that spectrum is important for everybody and we have to keep it. So we have to be careful, we have to be eco-friendly, so we don't produce a lot of noise. So I want to also invite you to visit our community. You can visit us at community.ubnt.com. And if you have any question about airFiber, feel free to create a thread into our community. I will help you, or one of my colleagues will help you there. Let's now review questions and let's do some answers. Kyle, can you help me reading some questions?
Yeah, so we currently only have one question written down, and the question is, what are the right heights that we should look at needing for a long distance link about 60 kilometers? Just mainly due to the Middle East being very, very hot, and want to make sure that they can kind of escape the concrete jungle if needed of a lot of the heat that's radiating around them.
Okay, that's a pretty good question. In order to do the calculations, you can do some advanced mathematics, or you can just easily go to the AirLink tool. We have an AirLink tool, which is a link simulator software. You can type airlink.ubnt.com, and in that web page, you can simulate your link. You can specify your initial point, your ending point. You can specify the frequency you want to use, and the system will simulate your link and will say you what is the best system or the best radio for each system, and will also give you the information about what is the required height for the towers.
Hey, Salvador, kind of along those lines, can you just talk about the general effects of what extreme heat can do on the airFiber radios, and maybe some of the things that we do to help combat some of those negative effects. You can also go over the operating temperatures if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the air fibers have been designed to work in the harshest environments, so they can work from temperatures as low as minus 40 Celsius degrees to plus 50 or 60 Celsius degrees. I don't have the exact numbers here, but I'm quite sure it supports up to 60 plus Celsius degrees. So almost in any place on the planet Earth, it should be possible to use it without any problem. We have been testing those products in the temperature chambers for several weeks, several months, and they perform pretty well. So there's no problem using them into the desert areas. They will perform perfectly. Of course, it's important to also consider that you need clear line of sight. So when you when you design your system, always ensure you have clear line of sight. But temperatures should not be an issue with the radios because they have been designed to operate in very hot and very cold temperatures.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question is, what maybe have you seen as being the max throughput of the airFiber 2X in a really noisy or oversaturated environment? Have you seen, what kind of results have you seen, I should say?
And that's a pretty good question. It usually depends on, of course, on the noise floor you have. Uh, First thing, if you know that there is a pretty noisy place, I would definitely use a shielding kit. So we don't have ubiquity shielding kits for the 2X antennas, but there's a lot of third-party vendors that sells shielding kits for our antennas. So I definitely will first do that, use a shielding kit. And then about the performance, I have seen a few cases with around 100 megabits per second using wide channels. But of course, it depends on on how is the interference in your area. It's pretty complicated to say without seeing an air view scan. But I will say that it's for sure it's like at least 2 or 3 times more performance than Air Max M2, even 4 times higher than Air Max M2.
Very good, thank you. Um, So a comment here. It says also we note that most of the airFiber get very low modulations of speed unless they're like 200 megahertz away from the new airFiber.
I don't understand the question.
Yeah, hey Abdul, would you be able to comment in either on chat or questions, maybe elaborate a little bit more about that here? So here, actually, it's Salvador. This is a very, very good comment I've heard from many people. So currently in Egypt, all of our airFiber products are illegal. The reason being that we need to have a locking mechanism on the radio that will lock it into the country and power codes. Um, Otherwise, our products will continue to be illegal in Egypt. So I know I've brought this up before to Tony, but if we need to get some type of again, just like a locking mechanism to where once
Actually,
it's set.
there is a locking mechanism. When you start your radio, you have to select the country code you're going to be using. Actually, you have to agree with the terms. That means that you have to use that country code, otherwise you're going to be acting against the law. So there is a locking mechanism. If you select the country code Egypt, you're going to be limited to the channels, to the frequencies that are allowed in Egypt, and also to the maximum IRP level in Egypt. So it should not be a problem.
So we can talk offline more about this.
Yeah,
However,
absolutely.
there have been some internal testing by the government in their laboratories over there, and they need some type of other locking mechanism, more than just the simple, hey, agree with these terms, and when you select the country code. So again,
Oh,
we'll
okay.
talk offline more about this, but yes, Med, thank you very much for the question and the comment. Really, we were definitely looking at this to make sure that our products can be used in all countries, all over the world.
Absolutely. Let's review that and let's find a solution. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, let's see next. Oh, yep. Um, so he also added that it's important just to make sure that end users as well, they can't use other channels. Um, So it would, I guess it would almost be like a Salvador, like a master login almost. So that way, an end user, somebody can't get into the system and reset anything, whether it be, actually resetting a link, and changing a country code or something like that.
Okay, we can do something for that.
Okay. Okay. So Abdul here he expounded it a little bit. He said, for example, if I have an airFiber on 5700 megahertz, and the next one is on 59 megahertz, both of them will get low modulation unless I put one on either 6000 or 5600 to get the higher modulation.
Is he talking about their fiber 5 or 5X?
Well, up to 5900, that would have to be I guess would be either the 5U or
Or can be
5X.
the X? It
Yeah.
depends on the radio because with the X, since this is half duplex, you can basically be using like 1 megahertz interval between the frequency you selected, and they will be fine. If you're using the 5 or 5U, since those are full duplex systems, you will have to you will need certain frequency separation, and that frequency separation does not have to be 200 megahertz. That's too much. You just need around 50 or 60 megahertz frequency separation between the two channels. If the customer has any problem with that, please feel free to ask him to email me. Actually, you can email me to Salvador at ubnt.com, and you can email me, and I can help you with the link if you have any problem.
So for those that are listening in on the chat portion of the webinar, I posted Salvador's email address, and I'm also going to be posting mine as well. So that way, if you guys ever have questions, feel free to email both of us here. Let's see, next question. Salvador, do we have, he mentioned on the 200 megahertz that it was on the 5U.
Okay. Yeah, actually, if you can send me an email with the information about the link, I will need the screenshots and their air views. I can for sure take a look and help you to make way in the most efficient way.
Very good. Okay. Yeah, Abdul, go ahead and send him an email. And again, his email address is in the chat portion. Salvador, do we have any plans to do products for 13 gigahertz, 23 gigahertz, or maybe even any other frequencies that we don't currently have right now?
Yes, we are actively looking for our frequencies. We are actually asking a lot of users what is the next frequency they need for the license bands. So if you have any requirement, feel free to post in the community or email me. And I'm one of the persons in charge of looking for those frequencies because we want to make, if you have any frequency, any license frequency you can use, we want to make sure we will have an airFiber for you. So feel free to email me or send us a message via the community, and we are looking for the next airFiber frequency for the license band for sure.
Perfect. Okay, if you guys have any other last minute questions here, go ahead and type them in. Currently, we don't have anything more than what we've talked about. But again, thank you for your time. We really do appreciate your activity and your willingness to listen on airFiber. Again, if you have any other questions or comments, concerns going forward, feel free to email myself, Kyle, as well as Salvador. We're always looking to make sure that we are pushing forth the airFiber platform to not only existing customers but also new customers, new reasons why we should be looking at using the airFiber platform. I really want to say thank you again for everyone's time. This webinar is being recorded, so we will be able to send out the link so everyone can listen back, review, look at any slides. Again, thank you for your guys' time. Have a great evening, and we will be having, I'm sure, another airFiber webinar coming up soon. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Bye bye.